Hey art nerds, I am back in Luling and I think you guys probably know what that means. I've been lured astray, tempted by the dark side of cheap art supplies. And it is the post-holiday season, which is the hardest time of year for those of us who are oh so tempted by cheap art supplies because all the Christmas tat is now on sale. I was at Hobby Lobby today recording my post-Christmas gift guide or my gift card guide, and I saw a million of these Masters Touch Fine Art Studio sets. Masters Touch is Hobby Lobby's store brand, sort of like how Artist Loft is Michael's store brand or Great Value is Walmart's store brand. And I don't have a lot of experience with Masters Touch because I don't normally go to Hobby Lobby. So I picked up one of the smaller watercolor sets that actually included stuff, and I'm going to include some footage from my gift card guide right here so you guys can just see how much variety is available right now. So as you guys can see, we really do have a lot of options, and I went with a set that I thought I would actually enjoy reviewing, you guys might actually enjoy seeing, and wouldn't cause me a whole lot of pain. So I went with a set that I thought I could maybe recommend to you guys. So it is the Masters Touch Fine Art Studio 20-piece set. It normally retails for $14.99, but right now Hobby Lobby has all of their Masters Touch stuff, even the open stock stuff, on sale for half off, so I paid about $8 for it. It comes with 12 watercolor paints. These are tube watercolors, 1 palette, 3 paintbrushes, 1 sketch pencil, 1 eraser, 1 sharpener, and 1 wooden carrying case. And just to show you what we're dealing with, the wooden case is shrink wrapped, and it conforms to ACM 93102, Hobby Lobby Phase 2, so they haven't gotten rid of all their Christmas stuff yet. And the wooden box itself is actually well protected, so you're not going to get a box that's already pre-dinged up and destroyed. And they recommend that this is for ages 13 and up. And as you guys saw in my Hobby Lobby gift card guide, Hobby Lobby has a lot of different watercolor sets available. And I was very intrigued by many of them, but I only intended to purchase one since I did indeed purchase it. Alright, so let's slice our way into this using a very old Luling X-Acto blade. And this has been shrink wrapped, and then it comes in a wooden box. Let's see if I can remove this without too much hassle. Okay, and then we have our little end caps, and then we have our sleeve information, and then we have a plain unmarked box about the size of a cigar box. It doesn't say Masters Touch, it doesn't say Hobby Lobby, it doesn't even say watercolor. So zooming on in, we're going to unlatch the little latch on this box. And inside is actually kind of unimpressive. Okay, so I picked up this kit. We had a lot of different options for kits, and I was really torn between this kit and a 70-piece kit that also included watercolor pencils and those weird chiclet style watercolors. And I'll include a picture of that here so you guys know what I'm talking about. But I went with this kit after much deliberation because I thought this would be the kit that A, would cost the least, it'd be the most economical for me to review, but also it would cause me the least amount of rage. And I'm looking at these watercolor brushes and I can already tell you these are awful. These are garbage. Now, Master's Touch also has open stock, not open, well yeah, they do actually. They have tube watercolors like this open stock, and then they also have, gross. They also have, like just the watercolor sets, and that's actually cheaper than this set here. But I wanted to go with an inclusive set because I know some of you receive sets like this for Christmas, or you gave sets like this for Christmas, or you're thinking about buying a set like this with your gift card. So I wanted to get an inclusive set so I could see how well it works as a cohesive whole. And what we have in this set is we have one small, incredibly cheap, very cheap, like throwaway plastic palette. We have an eraser. It's a white vinyl eraser. It seems fine. We have a very cheap pencil sharpener to go with our sketch pencil. We have our HB sketch pencil. Only branding, only marking on it is that HB mark. We have three very cheap synthetic brushes. They are maybe golden Taklon. We have a flat, we have a really crummy looking round, and we have, I think, a smaller round. And in my watercolor tutorials, I always tell you guys to paint with the largest brush you'd be comfortable using. And I think when I'm finished with this review, I'm going to put together some recommendations of watercolor products that are very affordable, that are going to make you a lot more happy. And then we have 12 colors, 12 watercolor tubes in this package. Let me get one out for y'all. So it does actually have the pigment information. This is a plastic tube that has foil on it to make it look like it is actually metal, but it's plastic. And it's Master's Touch Watercolor PW720, so that would be Pigment White 720, Zinc Titanium White, medium or M light fastness with 3 stars. The vehicle is dextrin, which is actually, you know what, for cheap watercolor, I really appreciate them disclosing pigment information and also disclosing the binder that they're using. Now, gum arabic is a really popular binder. Another popular binder would be honey. Sometimes glycerin is a popular binder for inexpensive watercolors. Dextrin would be a sugar-based binder, so it's probably hydrophilic, which means it absorbs water, but we're gonna find out. And it says Pigment White PY6. So we have Zinc Titanium White, we have Lemon Yellow, we have Yellow, come on, Yellow Medium, we have Yellow Ochre, we have Brilliant Red, we have Crimson Red, we have Ultramarine Blue, Violet Sap Green, Viridian Hue, Burnt Umber, and Ivory Black. And like I said, I do actually like that they disclose the pigment information and the binder on these. For cheap watercolors, I never see that. I contacted Colarts, Winsor Newton's parent company, Reeves' parent company, to find out what pigments were used in Reeves, and they blew me off. So it's actually nice to see pigment information disclosed in a little inexpensive set like this. So for today's review, I think what I want to do is I am going to test out almost everything in this little kit, and I'm going to swatch the watercolors now. Master's Touch makes watercolor paper, and I bought the smallest pad I could find because it's the watercolor paper that has the texture that I hate the most. So I can't see myself liking it, but I did want to try it before I slammed it. But I'm going to be trying it instead on Canson XL watercolor paper. Now, those of you who watch my other watercolor reviews, you know I often will do the best I can, give it the benefit of the doubt, and swatch it on cotton rag watercolor paper, but I'm not in Nashville. I don't have my cotton rag watercolor paper with me, and I am not buying a pad of watercolor cotton rag watercolor paper from Hobby Lobby to test these out with. So we're just going to have to go with Canson XL, which frankly, that is the type of paper, cellulose paper, inexpensive paper, mass market paper. That's the kind of paper that I see most people who are using this set using. And there's nothing really wrong with Canson XL paper. I use it pretty frequently myself, just not necessarily for these unbox and swatch reviews. But that's going to be the paper that I'm going to use today. And I'm going to try their brushes, but I foresee myself disliking their brushes, so I'm also going to bring a couple of my own brushes just in case. So we're going to go ahead and get prepped for that. Okay, so I return. We're going to move this out of the way. We're going to bring this into the shot. I want to point out to you guys that when I do reviews, when I do tutorials here in Luling, I'm working on the floor, hunched over in a pair of jeans. So show me some love. Anyway, we've got our cellulose-based watercolor paper. Almost disappears into my background. My very jerry-rigged background. And one of the first things I want to do is very similar to my other alcohol marker reviews. Watercolor reviews. I'm going to use an alcohol marker, which is going to be waterproof. I'm going to apply lines to the paper so we can test for opacity. Ba-ba! And, it's nice. Okay, I like the compactness of it. I just hate, and okay, look, let's be real. For $14.99, you and I both knew I wasn't getting super great art supplies, all right? And part of the reason I'm so hard on these things is these are designed to appeal to parents, to guardians, to grandparents, to well-meaning people who love other people. These are designed to appeal to people who don't know a lot about art supplies, who are trying to buy something for someone who would like art supplies or enjoys art. So I'm hard on it because I want to help people find the best products for their budget. And I really don't like when shortcuts are taken or extra cheapities are taken and people are kind of duped into something that's not very good. So I kind of knew what I was getting into. I'm a little surprised by how bad these brushes are and by how cheap this is, because the nice versions of these, like this is a dirty but nicer, sturdier version. They're like, you can get them at Dollar Tree. Like, they're not really expensive. So I'm a little disappointed. And also, these kits all tend to use the same things over and over and over again. So like, you know, if it's bad in this kit, it's going to be bad in the $80 kit. And while the $80 kit includes a lot of stuff, it includes a lot of junk. So I'm not the biggest fan of that. But I'm doing it because I'm kind of looking out for you guys. So what I want to do is I want to start by swatching these. And they're a little hard to remove from the plastic container. And also want to start by, I'm going to rinse the sizing out of these. And sizing is like a gelatin or a glue that is put into these to make sure the bristles are fairly stiff. And I'm using distilled water for today's tutorial, or say tutorial, review. And the reason I'm using distilled water is because the water here in Luling is different from the water in Nashville, and it just allows me to be more consistent. I really should be using distilled water in Nashville too, because Nashville has very hard water and calcium deposits are a problem. And distilled water kind of lets you... Okay, so like many cheap tube watercolors, these have these little foil protectors, I guess. And as you can see, it's a plastic tube. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the number 6. This is not a number 6, okay? First of all, flats are usually measured in inches and half inches. They're not measured the same way rounds are. Secondly, the sizing on rounds can vary based on the brand, but they do, it's like women's jeans, right? A 6 in women's jeans is not going to be the same brand to brand, but it's not going to be like massively, massively off in most cases. But this is not a 6. No matter how you measure it. Okay, and then we have to remember that our binder is dextrin and is a little bit yellow. Maybe not as yellow as gum arabic. Now, normally with cheap watercolors, I would also dry these out in half pans, but I'm not going to do that, because I was really disappointed with how the Arteza watercolors handled in that regard. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to swatch all 12 colors. We have our saturated swatch at the top to tell opacity, and then I'm gradiating it out, washing it out with a little bit of water. And as I go, I'm going to put them in upside down so I'll know which colors I've already done. Alright y'all, I'm going to check back in with you guys after these have had a chance to dry, but I want to say this while it's still fresh. The colors are really pretty weak. You guys saw me like working directly from the tube. I've got sticky on my hands now from the dextrin. They are full of optical brighteners because you can see how muddy the water got just from swatching. And like I feel like these are nasty. Like these are kind of nasty paints. I kind of regret buying them, which is not something you want to feel, and it's not something you want to give. So we're going to give these a chance to dry and then check back in on them. Oh, and also the brush that came with it, that number 6 flat, this thing is terrible, y'all. It was dripping water all over the place. It's really scrubby. It's like henpecking it, trying to get a line of color down. When you work with small brushes like this and you're doing a bigger piece, they're gonna make you miserable. That's how you get muddy colors. So I was kind of hoping to like this set, and I'm really disappointed that I don't, and I'm really glad I only spent $8, and I'm gonna donate this set as soon as I'm done with it, because I might dislike it, but somebody who's less fortunate than I am might like it because it might be the only options they have. So just a friendly reminder, if you guys have art supplies you're not using, don't hoard those art supplies, donate them. Alright, so it's been about an hour. These are still not dry. That's not really a fault of the watercolor, but rather a fault of Louisiana's humid atmosphere. So I'm just going to go ahead and start moving forward. Now, normally I would do a lift test, and that is where I use a watercolor brush, dip it in water, scrub a little bit, try to lift the color up. But since these are still wet, I don't really think that's going to work out super well. So what I think I'm going to attempt is I think I'm going to try doing a color wheel. So I'm going to grab, and we don't have a cool blue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do yellow medium, lemon yellow, brilliant red, crimson red, and ultramarine blue. Just move these plastic tubes over to the side. And I'm really not liking my options, but I do want to show you guys why working with super small brushes is just not a great idea. So that is the route we're going to take. Alright, so I've got my cup of now somewhat muddy water, and I'm just going to try working from the tube rather than putting it into a mixing surface. Partially, oh, you know what I can do? Ooh, look y'all. We can put a little dot in here and give us a chance to play around with some of the stuff that came in this kit, and I goofed already. So we're just gonna slide our color wheel down. And I don't actually have that big a problem with the plastic tubes. Usually cheaper watercolors come in these like Daiso watercolors or Yasutoma watercolors, but there isn't anything necessarily inherently wrong with a plastic tube, and metal tubes do tend to have their own unique problems, so I don't really have a problem with that. I do kind of have a problem with them trying to trick us into thinking they're nicer, more expensive tubes than they are, but you know, what you gonna do about that? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this very cheap little palette, and the colors, like I mentioned in our swatch test, are really, really weak. You can be working at full intensity and they're still just unimpressive, a little bit anemic. You're not getting a lot of pigment load in these. Now, that's really not surprising considering how cheap these are. So you can see, just to cover one area, I'm having to make several brush strokes. I'm having to give it several passes. And that is due to the small size and somewhat scrubby nature of the largest included brush, which they claim is a size 3. It's kind of small for a size 3, but it could be a size 3. Another thing is these sort of synthetic brushes, you guys see me dropping water all over the place. These sort of synthetic brushes are not really good for watercolor. They tend to be a little bit too stiff to actually be good watercolor brushes, and they don't hold water or paint very well at all. There are good synthetic brushes on the market, and those have kind of wavier hairs. They're not as straight. They can hold on to the water a little bit better. So we don't have a cool blue. We just have this ultramarine blue. So it's gonna have to serve double duty. And we'll go back into our warm yellow. I've been rinsing this out in the rinse water, but it's hard to get all the paint out from in between the bristles. And then that is going to be our lemon yellow that I mix with our ultramarine. So, just for completion's sake, oh really? That color is so just pathetic. Like, there's no oomph, there's no color to it. And I know some people think watercolor is supposed to be just pastel. It's really not. Watercolor should be able to deliver a wide range of intensity of color. So these sort of weak watercolors are, that's not necessarily what you're aiming for. And then this brush is very stiff and very small. I think I would have rather they include a cheap larger brush instead of 3 cheap small brushes that are all about the same size. It's just not really that usable. I didn't really get a chance to look at what kind of watercolor brushes Hobby Lobby had in stock. There was another lady who was seriously pondering them, so I didn't want to intrude on her because I was capturing a little bit of footage too. So I didn't get a good look. But I also didn't really see many brands that I recognized other than Princeton Velvet Touch, which is alright. I have some Princeton Velvet Touch. They're certainly preferable to these. I couldn't even tell you if the Master's Touch, which is what this brand is, if the Master's Touch brushes are decent or not. What I kind of feel like Hobby Lobby is doing, just by perusing what they have, is I think their brand is buying different things from China and then relabeling it. Because I saw a lot of, as you guys might have seen if you watched the gift guide, I saw a lot of products that look kind of familiar, but were just marketed or just labeled as just watercolor. Like, not really any description of the product itself. So they might have better watercolors, and these might not be it. Kind of like with Arteza, people say the half pans are better than the tube watercolors, but the tube watercolors annoyed me so much that I'm not going to go back and try them. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let these dry, and then I'm going to come back and layer over them. And yes, I'm going to use that scrubby brush because I'm still trying to prove a point. But I'm going to come back and layer over them, and we're going to see if we can mix colors that way. And while I'm waiting for that to dry, I might as well do a little bit of color mixing for you guys, kind of wet into wet. I don't want to double dip. So this little pan thing here, it's incredibly cheap. You can get nicer ones at Dollar Tree, like a 6-pack of them. No, let's say a 3-pack of them for $1 each. So this doesn't really impress me. The quality is not great. It's very flimsy. If the AC kicks on, it might take it away. If you're working in front of a box fan, you might have to weight this down with a bevel or something. Like, it's really, really cheap and flimsy. That does not mix a very good purple, but it's not much different from the purple they included, so. And then we're gonna try to mix a green. And that's mixing the colors live on the paper. Little goes a long way with green because the blue will really influence it. So I kind of feel like all my mixes are kind of muddy mixes. I'm not really getting any nice mixes from it. Even the orange might be the best mix, but none of them are very impressive or very nice. So I'm going to let these dry, and hopefully these dry, and I'll be back. Alright, let's get this wrapped up. So these have had a chance to dry. Actually, almost everything has had a chance to dry. So I'm going to go back in with our size 3, the largest of our 3, well, excepting maybe the flat. I'm going to go in with our size 3, try to do some color layering. We'll see how well that goes. And I actually want to prove a point to you guys, because if we have any scraping, as you guys can see, or color migration, that is just a display of quality. That shouldn't happen, okay? With a good watercolor brush, good watercolors on the right paper, it's not going to just lift up like that. You're going to be able to glaze the color on top of it. And I do actually plan on doing a field test. Now, for those of you who don't know what a field test is where I create an illustration and I attempt to use the product for the majority, if not the entirety, of the illustration. This gives me a chance to work with the product, spend more time with the product, kind of figure out its nuances. Sometimes that redeems a product I didn't like. Often it's kind of dooms a product I did like, because I spend more time with it and I start to realize its flaws. But sometimes doing a field test helps me figure out some shining points of redemption with a product. So I hope you guys will look forward to that. It's also a good opportunity. I often treat them as tutorials. It's often a good opportunity if you have this sort of an art supply on your hands. It's a good opportunity to learn how to use it and how to make the most from it, because I have many years of experience, and I usually have to use every one of those years to figure out how to bring out the best and to complete the piece to my satisfaction. So we're getting a lot of color lifting, we're getting a lot of scraping. These brushes are just a little bit too stiff to really be useful for this paper or this paint. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the paint itself is kind of weak. Not really getting the sort of glazing I'm looking for. Just kind of disappointed, all in all. Tube watercolors are one of those products that, even if they're cheap, you can sometimes get a lot out of them. And you know what? With these sort of sets, when you spend $14.99 for a set like this and it comes in a wooden box, most of that money is going to that wooden box. Alright, so what is my verdict on the Master's Touch $14.99 watercolor set? Is this something you should buy? Is this something you should give to somebody else? I would say skip this one if you can. I mentioned before earlier in the video, I don't have a lot of experience with this brand. So it's not like I can say skip this set, but get this other set that's the same brand, but it's actually much nicer because it's made by a different manufacturer and it solves a lot of the problems. I would love to be able to recommend that for you guys. I can't do that with this set. Honestly, I kind of feel like even Reeves performs better than this set, and apparently Winsor & Newton is discontinuing Reeves because it just doesn't do as well as they'd like. Oh, look at that sticky dextrin that is leaked out of these tubes. When did that happen? I don't even know. So I promised you guys an alternative to this set, an alternative recommendation. For $14.99, you're going to be pretty hard pressed to find something cheaper than this that's going to perform better than this, because $14.99 for a set of 12 watercolors, 3 brushes, a pencil, an eraser, a sharpener, and a palette, plus the wooden box, you're getting a lot for the money. Even if I'm not impressed with the quality, I do recognize that, like, it's like the exchange of matter, you know, like you can't get something for nothing. You're not going to get this amazing, incredible steal for nothing. But what I would do with that money is I'd spend a little bit more, and maybe 20, and I'd get the Cotman's Pocket Sketch Set or the Lucas Studio Sketch Set from Jerry's, or I would get maybe even a little bit more money than that, around $25. You can get the Mozart Komorebi set, which I really like, but then again, it doesn't come with the brushes, it doesn't come with the pencil, it doesn't come with the wooden box. So it's really one of those situations where I feel like I'm kind of hard pressed. I'd have to do some more research to find something that's going to cost so little, but is going to perform up to my standards. Now, if we're willing to look at children's grade watercolors, Yarka and Prang make really decent watercolor sets. I reviewed both of them and field tested both of them on this channel. You guys can check those out. I'll link them in the cards, and I'll link them in the description down below. But they both make really good, inexpensive children's sets if the children's aspect doesn't bother you. I know when we're giving gifts like this, part of it is the presentation. They're more pigmented, they come in an easier to use form factor, and I would recommend those. And then with the remaining money, because they're both around or under $10, you could buy maybe a couple of synthetic brushes. Even the Princeton Snap synthetic brushes are better than these really, really crummy brushes. I really don't like these brushes at all. I am sad that I'm going to have to use them, or I'm going to make myself use them in the field test. I haven't tried the pencil yet. We'll use that in the field test. I haven't tried the sharpener yet, or the eraser, but the eraser feels like your typical somewhat soft white vinyl eraser. It should be fine. This is really cheap, but it's not, it functions. It doesn't not function. You could go to Dollar Tree and get a similar mini weld palette like this one. You could go to Walmart and get the same thing. Do you like how I casually flashed this and it has all the caps from this? Anyway, you could go to Dollar Tree and get a white ceramic plate. I love Dollar Tree white ceramic plates for watercolor. I talked about them in my Dollar Tree review series, so that would be my go-to. Now, if you're willing to spend a little bit more money, I'm going to show you 2 sets, and they're ugly looking, they're nasty looking, they're gnarly, they've seen some use. So this is the Sakura Koi Pocket Field Sketchbox. I believe it's the 24-piece set. So it comes with a couple of mixing surfaces. It comes with a bunch of beautiful little colors and very handy to use half pan formation. It comes with a water brush. It comes with a small sponge that you can kind of wash your water brush off with. Apologize for the singing. You can post the spare side palette in 4 different iterations, whatever is comfortable for you. And it also has a ring on the back. Now this Depends on where you get it. On Amazon, sometimes it's around $25. Sometimes it's more. You could also get, this one is going to be the gnarly one, the smaller 12 color set. This is the same thing, smaller form function. As you can see, it has been used a fair amount. Used to have a little mini water brush in here. I took it out because I didn't like their mini water brush. It does have a mixing surface. I have used Soporific watercolors for about 10 years now. I use these for my convention watercolors because they're affordable. They last a really long time. They work consistently. They give me the quality that I'm looking for. They are more expensive than this set, but I like them so much better. I have reviews on this channel where I talk about these. I have tutorials where I show you how I use them. So I have put the support out there. Sakura isn't a sponsor of mine. I don't have any sponsors. I do this out of pocket, or rather, my sponsors are my wonderful patrons on Patreon. You guys can help support what I'm doing here on this channel with all of its quality production values by joining me at patreon.com/nattasoup, or you can just send me a one-time tip at ko-fi.com/nattasoup. You guys will find links to those in the description below. But keep in mind that this is 100% not feasible without your support. I purchased this set with money from my Patreon. So if you enjoy these sort of tutorials, if you find them helpful, useful, and informative, that is how you can support what I do. So I have reviewed the Master's Touch watercolor kit, a $14.99 watercolor kit from Hobby Lobby. It was purchased from the Hobby Lobby in Elmwood, which is in Ketter/Metairie, Louisiana, in December 2019, right after Christmas. It's literally the 26th when I am recording this. I paid about $8 for this set because anything Master's Touch was half off, and I don't like this set. I hope you guys will stay tuned so you can watch and laugh at me when I do the field test. I will still be hunched over on the ground in the childhood home, in the childhood bedroom that I grew up in. So it's a super duper nostalgic for me, and I think it's really fitting that I'm doing these kind of reviews in my home setting because this is what I would have had access to when I was a much younger artist. Anyway, hope this was helpful, useful, and informative. Hope I didn't break your heart. Like, I hope you didn't give this set and you're watching this review to find out how awesome it is and I just like dash that because I'm sorry about that. But keep an eye on this channel because I do gift guides and reviews, and I will help you buy art supplies that will make the artist in your life happy. So if you're looking for that kind of help, I'm here for you. I have your back. Anyway, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys with the field test, and I hope that you guys will consider subscribing if you like what I do. So, have a wonderful day, guys. Bye! I'm going to hand cam this because it's basically post. So when I shut this thing, what I hate, and it's a nitpick, but I hate it, is I hate how stuff just falls out. Like, there's no way I can securely put it in that it won't just fall out. And it's a really cheap plastic tray. It would have been very easy for them to just make these notches just a smidge more secure. So I know this is like the review of 1,000 complaints, but there you have it.